Well, joining me now is Moazzam Malik, Chief Executive of Save the Children. Mr. Malik, thank you very much for joining us here on the programme. We have been looking at these images of starving, distressed women, children, families. Save the Children is one of the 100 international aid organisations that are signatory to this, to highlight the fact that many of your colleagues are also joining these queues, are also starving. Just talk us through what the point of this statement is, because frankly, we've seen so many statements and very little, if not any, international action. Yeah,
so the point of the statement is for more than 100 NGOs are calling for action. And you're right, we do need action. The situation on the ground is deteriorating. 57,000 people are dead, 18,000 children. 85% of the 1.1 million children in Gaza are at risk of famine. The time to act is now. The pictures that you're seeing are horrific. And as you said, Yalda, my colleagues are living through this. I was in touch with them earlier in the day, talking to our Gaza team leader, Rachel Cummings. We've got something like 220 people working for Save the Children across the Gaza Strip. We are one of the largest humanitarian actors on the ground. But my colleagues are getting thin. They lack food, they don't know how to feed their children, they don't have access to water, they don't have access to firewood, they're living in tents. Many of them, almost all of them have been displaced, and many of them 10 to 15 times. They show up at work because they're heroes, and they feel like they can do something productive. They go home and life is desperate.
The statement says they're wasting away.
Correct. So talking to Rachel earlier today, she said that our colleagues, particularly the younger women, are getting visibly thinner in front of our eyes. It's shocking.
They're also dealing with evacuation orders.
Correct.
Your facilities are constantly on the front lines. Just talk us through the impact of that.
Yeah, so our operation was initially headquartered in Rafah. It had to move when we came under evacuation orders there. The centre of our operations is currently in Deir al-Balah. The bits of Deir al-Balah that have suffered evacuation orders now, thankfully, exclude our facilities, but some of our staff have had to move as a result. It's really important for your viewers to know that 86% of Gaza is now under evacuation order. 86%, right? So the population of 2 million people, those that are left, given those that have either managed to leave or are dead or under rubble, something like 2 million people are now squeezed into what was 14% of the Gaza Strip.
Mr. Malik, we were just listening there to David Mensah, who said the food is either being stolen by Hamas, and these numbers are inflated, it's Hamas propaganda, that they're trying to allow 87 million tonnes of food. Can you just put all of that into perspective for us?
Yeah, so I think, there's a pattern to this conflict. Right, we fight for humanitarian assistance. We get an inch. There's lots of debate to and fro. The Israeli government allows some stuff in, then it closes down again. And this is a long-running pattern. I first worked on this conflict in the 2000s. And indeed, I went to Gaza in 2008 after the blockade had just been imposed. And at that time, as a UK government official, I worked for Her Majesty's government at that time, I came back and said, we need an independent humanitarian access mechanism. It is not right or acceptable that one side to this conflict should be able to use humanitarian access as an instrument of war and as an instrument of occupation. My political masters of the day didn't entertain that proposition. And lo and behold, what we see over the years is exactly that, of aid. Water supplies, fuel supplies, food, medical supplies, God damn it, baby formula being used as an instrument of occupation and as an instrument of war. And it's simply not acceptable. So yes, we want humanitarian access, we want open borders, we want the UN system to be able to operate. But actually sitting behind that, we need to change the nature of this game. We need to get away from a party, a belligerent in this conflict, being able to control the well-being, the humanitarian conditions of 2 million people. We need independent mechanisms that enable us to keep people alive.
We talked there about the statement that the aid organisations have issued. We've also seen statements from European leaders, Israel's Western allies, and yet nothing seems to be changing on the ground.
Yeah, it's just not good enough. We see a lot of hand-wringing from our political leaders. I welcome the statement of these 28 European countries. I welcome that the UK government took a role in corralling this statement. But it's a statement. We're 21 months into this horror. We're 21 months into this horror. People are dying. The pictures are horrific. This is not a surprise. Aid agencies and the UN predicted that this would happen. We said that the GHF mechanism, this militarized form of aid, would lead to death and casualties. More than 1,000 people have died. This is not a surprise. And yet what we get is still a lot of hand-wringing. I think from my perspective, the question here is, what is the approach that we've taken in other conflicts? What's the approach that we've taken, for example, on Russia-Ukraine? What's the approach that we've taken historically? I spent many years working on humanitarian issues. In many other situations, we have created greater pressure. We've applied real pressure. We've thought about alternative mechanisms. We've tried to break the blockades. And yet in this, we have settled to be an ally to atrocities. And frankly, the hand-wringing and the statements are very welcome, but we need to see action.
Mr. Malik, I just want to talk to you a little bit about those who have been injured in this conflict. We know that something like 4,984 of them have been children who have been evacuated to regional countries, the United States, as well as the various European countries. We know that 2 children arrived here through a private charity. But are you calling on the government to do more? And what more can this country do for those children in Gaza who remain injured and desperate to be evacuated?
So obviously the best place to treat them is in Gaza itself. Allow the hospitals to function, allow us to rehabilitate them, allow us to get medical supplies in, allow us to get doctors in greater numbers. But nevertheless, in a live war zone, there are children who need to be evacuated. The government's record on this is appalling. Appalling. I've worked with that group of doctors, the private charity that you referred to, on a private basis. I've been advising them for about 18 months, this Project Pure Hope. They've managed, after many months of their personal effort and working with NHS trusts, to evacuate 2 children in April. In the same time, more than 200 children have been evacuated to Europe through the European Civil Protection Mechanism. In the time that group of doctors took to get permissions for 2, many children died because they couldn't get out. When those 2 came through, Project Pure Hope believed that they'd found a new pathway. The government, in fact, has failed to act to allow more children to come. And I know that group of doctors have had a proposal in front of Her Majesty's government for a month and are still awaiting a response. Many of the people involved with that project look at me and say, Moazzam, what the hell is going on? Other countries have taken children, why haven't the UK? And some of them in their darker moments look at me and say, this feels like racism. And frankly, I don't know what to say to them. So
are there plans and is there hope that more children will be able to come to the UK?
Well, I know that group of doctors have a pipeline of children. They've worked with WHO and others on the ground. They've got an evacuation route. They have fundraised for themselves, but they need the government to facilitate. In the case of Ukraine, 20 kids came out in the first 2 weeks. 20 kids came out in the first 2 weeks at the government's expense and with the government's facilitation. And then Her Majesty's government set up a mechanism for more Ukrainian children to come to the UK. The contrast with Gaza is shocking, hence the questions that my friends and colleagues ask.
Mr. Malik, we're slightly short on time, but I did want to ask you about the West Bank, because I know that you just got back from there, and we mustn't forget the pressure that Palestinians are feeling currently in the West Bank as well. Yeah,
so the situation in Gaza is obviously horrific. All eyes are on Gaza. But the situation in the West Bank is deteriorating. There's something like 900-odd checkpoints. More than 60% of the West Bank is now under Israeli control. We're seeing daily raids, 4,000 attacks on schools by the IDF and settlers in the first 3 months of this year. And last week in the north of the West Bank and indeed around Bethlehem, I met children who are affected by this conflict. These are children who are seeing their siblings detained arbitrarily. These are children who are seeing their parents detained, their schooling disrupted, access to healthcare disrupted, growing poverty as this tightening stranglehold on the West Bank gets deeper. I met girls who have a dream for their future, but who aren't able to realise that because of the impact of the occupation. I also met boys who had been arbitrarily detained, who had been held incommunicado, who had been tortured, and indeed who had suffered sexual abuse in Israeli detention. The stories are horrific. I talked to their counsellors and to their parents. And the counsellors and the parents told me that, yes, they can work with these kids, help them process what they've experienced, try and give them hope. But those kids are living in fear every day because once they're on a list, they can be picked up again. These are children, frankly, no different to mine or the children of your viewers. They deserve a future.
Mr. Malik, we're really grateful for your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.